All right, Coach Waialae, it's good to see you. Um, Thanks for being with us and carving out a few minutes. If you would, just start us out with an opening statement. It's been a long time since we've seen you, but just kind of give us an update on your program and your thoughts about the upcoming season.
Well, after last year, you're still kind of numb to a lot of the situations going on. And, the big word of the year last year was fluid. And, we're just trying to gain ground on, when do we test, what do we test? But we've been held, we were very fortunate last year that we had very minimal cases. We didn't have anybody sick, and, that enabled us to play a lot of guys. But, if you want to run down, what we're expecting this year, obviously special teams wise, I think we returned one of the best kickers in the conference in Roman Rosance. Our kicking game is strong. And, you look at a lot of teams that fare well, they don't give up big plays on special teams, and they make big plays on special teams. We get the Isaiah Robinson back, who didn't play at all during the spring. And so he was one of our better receivers, but also one of the top returners in the conference. Then we get our long snapper back, Trevor Hoosier, who's also one of our starting defensive ends. So, there was a lot of kids that sat out that, we weren't even worried about the defensive or offensive side of the ball, is what they contributed on the special team side of it. And it is a third of the game, and we put a lot of emphasis on it here. So kicking game is strong. We're back to where we want to be. You go in, we'll start defensively. We did have a lot of kids that graduated, and 3 starters in particular that graduated and went on to graduate school, which that's the right thing to do when they have the opportunity to get on with their life and make themselves better. There wasn't in a situation where the schools would hold their spots for them, so they opted to go to graduate school. But we feel we have a great combination on defense of true freshmen and transfers and kids returning. You got a lot of kids that played that last year that still have 4 years left of eligibility. So we have two freshman class, 2 senior classes. I mean, the amount of kids returning is the most we've ever had here. And then our roster size, we're very limited in space and things that we can do. So we have our roster size to capacity. But going defensive side of the ball, we returned a lot of kids that got chances. Jason Mitchell was second team all conference as a true freshman, and he didn't hardly played in the first game, although we played everybody in every game that suited up. Then Trent Crawford had a really good, unbelievable freshman 4 games that he played for us at nickel. Then the defensive line, I thought David Gilchrist, he deserved to be all conference, and everybody thinks they have first team all conference. Is kind of just where you fit in. He's one of the most dynamic defensive linemen in the conference, and he can flat out run. He was a linebacker when he got to us, and he's put on some more weight. So we're excited defensively just because we get some kids back. We got some that did not play last year. You move to the offensive side of the ball. Quincy Wimbish was the first time in a long time that we had a back that was on track to gain 1,000 yards. But, that starts up front. Last year, we were laughing because last year, 3 consecutive games, we started the same offensive line, which for the last previous 6 or 7 years, we hadn't. And so we have a lot of experience come there. So, a lot of them have the ability to come back and play. I guess it would be a 6th year, 5th year. I have no idea. I can't keep track of it. But they have the opportunity to come back and continue to keep playing. But, Pedroza started at left tackle every game for the last 2 years. He's back. And then they got to make the same decision that our seniors did last year. What do they get into graduate school? Do we offer what they want here? I'm sure that a lot of the kids that left, we didn't offer that major for them. So they went to a school that did offer what they wanted to get into. But going back to the personnel, the starting 5 up front all returned with, Quentin Williams, Wyatt Gardner, Tyler Eli, and Ryan Creech. And then, we had some freshmen by the end of the year that was competing with them and got game experience. And, most notably Judah Omabade. He's a big kid out of Maryland that came in and impressed us so much that I ended up playing him a little bit at tight end last year. Moving out to the tight end position, you know, we have a couple transfers in there right now that are vying. We have some kids that are coming back. I really don't know who's going to stick there up, but I was all set to go back to a 4 wide out set. And then guys started improving and showing a lot of capability to do a lot of different things. Our tight ends are, you know, probably more involved in the pass game than anybody else. And so, you know, we have a couple transfers there that are looking fine so far. And a couple kids that are returning from last year that have grown and gotten stronger over the summer that are ready to compete. Wide receiver wise, you know, Will Billiter didn't play in the game. Isaiah Robinson didn't play in the game. Dakota Williams didn't play in the game. So those are just 3 guys that, you know, normally would saw a lot of action previously that are all coming back after sitting out all of last spring. And then the quarterback situation, you know, Jack Allison had had an okay game to lead had a really good game the last game against Glenville when we beat them. But he played in the first and last game. Jamie Divins started the AB game, and he, you know, I think he was like 15 to 17. So if we can keep that passing percentage up and run the football like we did, we're going to be very competitive and win a lot of football games. But we're excited for what we have here coming back at West Liberty because, you know, Wisdom Jenkins, who I think he was one of our top receivers, Tariq Glenn, they're all back.
All right, we'll open it up to questions in just a second. If you could use the raise hand function inside of Zoom to get in the queue, that would be great. But Coach, how do you go about putting together a team with so many players? You just kind of talked about, you know, the bottleneck at seniors and freshmen. Like Coach Fitzgerald just said, how do you go about putting this team together that you probably never had like that before?
Well, I think the big thing is you got to give the kids the philosophy you want of who's going to be the star. You know, one thing we do here is the number one thing, they can't make mental mistakes. Number 2, they have to play with the effort that we expect. And number 3, they got to make plays. So it's not hard for us. We're constantly evaluating as everybody else does practice. Every practice is filmed. They know that's their opportunity. Reps are equal in the beginning, and then they'll filter down once we get towards game week. But, you know, there is a lot of competition. And if guys are equal, I'm going to play them equally, you know. And one of the keys for us offensively is Savion Johnson, whether he didn't play it all last year, but he can do so much in our run game, being a devastating blocker at fullback, but also he can carry the ball. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. So that gives us a lot more options, you know, than just staying in a tight end. 1 tight end, 3 wide out set. We can add him into the equation and run some different personnel groupings. So what we have to do is figure out what we're best at offensively. And we can't recruit clones, meaning our system somewhat changes every year because we have to do what our athletes do best.
All right, Cody, you're up. You can, if you've got a couple, you can just fire them away consecutively if you'd like.
All right, thanks. Hey, Roger, good to see you. I wanted to ask about last year, just with the way the schedule shook out. How hard was last year on newcomers to come in and, you know, just kind of get to know you and the staff and learn the system and everything?
Well, I think because we're so personal and this is a family to us that, you know, at first they got to know us, we're allowed to practice, then weren't allowed to practice. And, you know, we met by Zoom and we did a lot of different things. But once things opened up for us, you know, they were in the office a lot, they were learning the system. And so I think that was invaluable. And, you know, obviously they gained a lot of experience, and you can tell the improvement already. And we've only been outside twice, and just the way they're picking up the system mentally has been a major improvement for us. You know, at this time, a lot of freshmen are swimming right now thinking, oh my God, what did I get myself into? But, you know, the freshman class is bigger than it was before. And it's the same for everybody else, where we normally have anywhere from 18 to 25 freshmen every year. Well, now we got close to 50 freshmen. So it's just a different, you know, animal. But I like over half of the freshmen already know what's going on, already know what to expect. and they're working with the guys that are here. Hey, this is what we need to do. And it's just a rubbing off on everybody, so to say. You know, they're learning faster than they have before. They're understanding how fast we want to practice. Those practice habits are invaluable to us because that's the only way we can evaluate.
And then with only playing 4 games, how much can you evaluate from last year? Is it, you know, is it kind of in a normal year where you can do the same evaluation, or do you have to take it with more of a grain of salt?
Well, last year I thought we got to evaluate even more because a lot of kids played that would have redshirted. And so, you know, a lot of true freshmen got to show what they can do and where they belong and where they feel where they fall in the pecking order. Some of the freshmen moved to the top that we weren't expecting to. So we had some kids earn some scholarship money before we even went out and recruit because they played so well. So in a normal year, those kids probably would have never got on the field. But, you know, in the COVID year and the way the rules were falling, you were better off playing them than sitting them out. You know, so we made a choice, conscious effort here to try to get everybody into every game, which we were able to do.
And then you mentioned Jack. Just how much is a normal kind of off season going to help him for this year?
Well, I think immensely. He stayed around here all summer. He was working somewhere across the state line in Pennsylvania, and he was able to meet up with the local kids. You know, I didn't see him, but, you know, I'd hear that they were out this place, throwing. So just getting to know everybody and understand, you know, the different speeds of everybody. And we got some kids that can run and some kids. So that was a hard thing, I think, coming in last year because we didn't get a whole lot of time and everything was stop, start until we got to the spring. And, you know, you just see him getting more comfortable in the system, first of all. And here's a kid probably in the last 3 years been in 3 different systems, or possibly 4. I don't know. He was in 2 at WVU and 1 at Miami. So this was his 4th one. So just getting used to, you know, and I was an ex-quarterback, and the hardest thing is, you know, you tend to carry over the cadence. Sometimes he was saying the cadence and all the kids were looking and saying, what are you saying? And then he goes, oh, no, we don't say that here. So, I mean, it was, you know, you got to take a negative, turn into a positive. So we treated that lightly. Hey, you're at West Liberty now. You're not at WU or you're not at Miami. But, you know, I think that his true colors came out in our last game. You know, he had a pretty phenomenal game against Glenville. I think he was not big, but I think he was like 16 of 18 with 3 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns. And again, that efficiency carries a lot of weight. And we were getting efficient at the quarterback in 2 games that we played well. And there's 2 games we didn't play very well.
And then last one for me, I just wanted to ask you about Wheeling. Now that you've played them a couple times, do you feel there's a potential for a good rivalry, you know, a good local rivalry with you two?
Well, I think from the first game, it was a good local rivalry. You know, we've been up here on the hilltop and really haven't, our rival kind of changed every year. You know, it went from Fairmont to Seton Hill to West. I mean, every year you know, it seemed that it was changing depending on how the game went the year before. Now in football, we do have a true rivalry just because of the proximity of both schools from each other. And we've never had that before where, you know, you look at Charleston and State, they've always been together down there. Glenville and Wesleyan, they've always been together down there. So they've had all these built-in rivalries just because of proximity. Our rivalries were more based off of how the games went the year before. And, you know, I'm happy for our kids. And I think I said it 2 years ago. You know, I think our kids were a little bit envious of the basketball teams, the baseball teams, and everybody else that got to play against them. And they had the true rivalry, and you can tell there was a different atmosphere, and they got to experience that. And hopefully we can move forward and treat it like any other game. But you get in those rivalry games, as much as you want to tell them it's any other game, just like if you're playing in the playoffs, it's just another game. Well, in reality, it's not. Mm-hmm. But you want to try to treat it that way.
Thanks, Roger.
You're welcome.
Anything else for Coach Waialae?